Hello, everyone, and welcome to a talk video. Quick introduction to these talk videos I'm going to be creating. It's just a way to maybe support new traders uh, through the journey of getting started, a way to maybe motivate at least one person, maybe a way to remind everyone of the realistic aspects of trading, especially for people that want to start trading as a full time and what the hidden parts of that are in the real world because no one really talks about it. I've stumbled up dozens of channels, thousands of them probably, that just don't talk about the true realistic aspects of trading. So I'm not gonna be going over any charts or anything. I'm just gonna basically do a one out of this is gonna be the first video out of a two-part video because I really want to introduce myself and how I got started with trading, so we can start from the beginning and then how I progressed. Even though I am a beginner myself, I've been trading for at least 8 years now, but I consider myself a beginner trader because I there's just so much I don't know and so much I want to learn. But that's the whole purpose of these talk videos, is talk about the realistic side of trading, especially again, those of you that are trying to do it more seriously as possibly even a full-time thing or as your primary income. And just to be super realistic, no hype, no trying to hype people up, none of that. It's just going to be the realistic stuff that everyone needs to know in order not just live uh, mentally healthy life, but also to keep a healthy financial life as well. But yeah, guys, starting, I think it was like 10th grade. I don't know if it was the beginning of it or halfway through it. In 10th grade, I decided to take trading a little bit more seriously and learn more about it. So at the time, I wasn't anyone special. I remember I really liked marketing. I really liked the financial markets. It kind of called my attention. I like the technology behind it. I found a lot of these platforms you can use to be fascinating. The way you can make sense of, you know, financial habits in the broad, for example, macroeconomic landscape, and how you can make sense of everything, kind of puzzle it together, and then share your opinions with the world by taking a long or short trade. And I thought being able to do that on your phone, on a computer, on a laptop, it's all very fascinating to me that we all have access to this. So my marketing teacher at the time traded, and I saw his computer on his school computer. He had the Thinkorswim platform, and I done a lot of um, research. I would say trying to find other platforms, what YouTubers at the time were using. I think this was maybe uh, 10th grade. What year was that? It was like maybe 2017 or 20. It was like 2016 or 2017 when I first got into it. So that was around 10th grade. And I just watched a lot of YouTubers doing their thing. And I experienced through watching how simple everything is. And in reality, it's not very simple at all. But we'll get into more of that, just like the real life expectations that you need to know in order to, live a healthy trader lifestyle. There's a lot of things. Even a lot of most YouTubers don't talk about this, but some do, and the ones that do don't really get into like the stuff that people don't want to hear about. I'm gonna talk a lot about things that no one wants to hear about, and it's just I think it's necessary. So basically, after doing plenty of research, watching videos, I was too young at the time to open a brokerage account. So I would literally paper trade, not through like a paper trading brokerage, but like I would keep track of. There was a bunch of apps. I can't remember what they were, but there was a bunch of apps I would use to keep track of the markets and then place like notes on there on what I'm trying to keep track of, and maybe all the stuff I was learning on YouTube all the time, which is basically just support resistances. Um, I was very very bad at understanding the overall trend of a chart. I was too focused on like intraday 1 minute candles. For those of you that aren't familiar, candles just one way of representing a chart. It's basically, it illustrates it it in a different way than just watching lines move up and down. It creates these sort of rectangles that represent volume and the change of how many buyers and sellers are. But basically, I would go on a journal and I would write down every time I want to buy and sell stock, and I would um, just base my trades off. I'll buy and sell in this notebook, and I'll write how much profit I could potentially have made with the amount of shares I would trade with, and I would just keep every day during class. I would watch the charts and take notes on paper because I was too young to open a brokerage account in the U.S. That's where I'm at right now. So I don't know if it's like this in other countries, but in the U.S. you have to be 18 years old to open your own brokerage account. My parents didn't want to do that. During this time, also I was working part time, but technically full time. I was working like 30 hours a week at a grocery store, pushing carts, cleaning the store, organizing it, stocking, and bagging groceries. And basically, I would aggressively save as much as I can because I knew when I turned 18, I want to start trading, and I would aggressively trade. I ended up buying a gaming PC to game, but also to, have multiple monitors up. I ended up selling that PC a few years ago after having it for a while, but I would use that with multiple monitors, and I would be much more invested, my time much more invested. So I'll be either be in school, working, or watching the charts on bigger screens than just on a phone, and then taking notes and watching as many videos and reading as many articles as I can. Um, and that's kind of how I spent that whole time till I turned 18. And I was still blinded. I would keep looking at, I was terrible at looking at past patterns. So I wouldn't look at the day before. I wouldn't, I didn't know how to read news data that well. So any economic events, any like sort of like interest rates now, and I'm a little sick by the way, so I apologize. But basically, I would always just look at the minute candles of every day, and I would just base my trades off of that, not knowing that there was potential resistances or supports in the previous day that will fill in, the day that I was looking at, and then it was just terrible. And then eventually I turned 18 and I funded my account. At the time, it was with TD Ameritrade. That's what a lot of YouTubers are using. It's the one I was familiar with from watching all these videos on. And then I eventually just very confidently opened an account with them and started using Thinkorswim. Um, and I was overly confident in the sense of like it's always good to be very confident, especially in something you are very interested in and you want to progress in. But at the time, I was overly confident in the sense of I would think I was really good and I would place trades. Um, Basically, my first trade, I was actually on the phone with a TD Ameritrade because they got bought out by Schwab now. But at the time, the Thinkorswim was and TD Ameritrade was its own thing. It's not with Schwab at the time. But they would I would be on the phone with them the first time, and I'm like, hey, this is my first time placing a trade, and I have no idea. Like I'm a little nervous. I watched a lot of videos on this, but actually doing it in person, it's kind of I want to make sure I don't mess anything up. And they walked through placing trades in person because when you're doing something for the first time, even though you read about it, or watched a lot of videos on it, whatever, it's just it very much can be nerve wracking and you forget everything. But eventually, after placing that first trade and so on, I actually lost. I think I lost money in my first trade. It was $1,000, and seeing it go down from like 1,000 to like 990 was terrible because at the time I'm not in this. I wasn't in the same financial situation as I am now, and I'm not in a great place. But I'm very thankful for where I'm at, and I feel like I'm making really good progress. Um, but at the time, I would again just focus on the same day. I wouldn't look at. I was terrible at support resistance. I didn't know how to be patient. Patience was a very difficult thing at the time, and I ended up trading for a while, and I would be my account from $1,000. It'll be in the negative a little bit, in the green a little bit, and I'll feel amazing making $20. And even if I end the whole month and only made like $5, I'll feel like a champ, and I would already start, which is good. But I would already start being overly confident and thinking I'm like better than everyone else, and but eventually the market does humble you and forces you, after it humbles you plenty of times and aggressively a lot of times. um it either forces you to just get out of the markets and you're done and you're out and you just don't want to deal with it anymore, or it forces you to really learn a lot about yourself and keep pushing, and it really tests to see how truly, everyone says like, I always wanted to trade, but a lot of people either trade because they actually have some kind of appreciation for these financial markets and how a lot of these institutions work, and being able to buy a piece of a company or buy a piece of crypto, and be able to hold it, and being able to participate in these market fluctuations that are represented by a lot of things, interest rates, just a lot of things, economy, and any view on future economic data, and how, value, how cryptos and stocks value themselves by, coming back down to a more stable area with, for example, if you're using a simple SMA. But at the end of the day, basically, when the market humbles you and either forces you to really focus more or forces you out of the market, if you're one of the few people that actually stick with it, even if you were the ones that actually got into trading for appreciating the markets and actually have somewhat of a fire inside you that wants to learn more, or you're one of the people that maybe just saw a YouTuber with like a flashy item like a car, or you just like their style and you got into it, regardless of either of those two pathways, you will know very quickly, um, if you are meant to continue on what you're doing, in this path you took to become a trader, rather it's part-time or full-time. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, after being humbled by the markets a lot and losing what may be a little bit to a lot of people, but at the time it was a lot to me, I kind of I struggled to learn. um I struggled to have these conversations with myself, to try to talk to myself like, hey, like, what are we doing wrong? Like, do we need to step back and like analyze um emotions? Very emotional trader at the time. I always thought that, hey, if I'm lucky and the trades just need to go my way just because I'm meant for this, and like no one is meant for this, and the trading, the market's just like, if a lot of you are familiar with the term like Mr. Market, if you read Intelligent Investor, or if you just hear it from other people, basically, rather it's on YouTube or not, but basically, like the market does its own thing, and it does not care about you, no matter how lucky, fortunate you are, not fortunate, it doesn't matter where you come from. The market does whatever it wants to do, and you need to understand how to read its characteristics, how to, and I apologize for the flashes on the video. It's just, I don't know if it's the adapter that I have connected to my computer for the camera, I'm not sure. Um but basically it took me a very long time. Like, people that have been trading for at least 8 years usually have a much better stance in trading than I do. I believe that I'm very much delayed in my progress, just because, for many years, even though I did a lot of research and I've read so much, and it all says to, like, keep losses small, let your winners run, keep an eye on, overall patterns, or just whatever trend the market is in place for that overall year, for example. I would i would listen to so much advice, just, and I just couldn't um get a grasp of it. I would continue to trade on like super small time frames without understanding the bigger picture. I would trade, um either too aggressively, or I would trade based on, emotions or my gut, instead of backing it up with actual analysis and, again, the overall structure that whatever you're trading is at the time. But after many many years, it probably took me just about 5 years of repeating the same thing over and over again before I realized, like, if I'm gonna be taking this a lot more seriously, I really really need to have a conversation with myself, and basically how that went. So again, just so I can kind of, because I don't have a script or anything, I'm just straight up talking to you guys. So started in 10th grade, worked my way from learning, writing down trades on paper, learning a ton, watching a ton of videos, getting overly confident, thinking I'm the best when I'm really not, and I'm trash at the time, and I still feel like I'm trying to progress out of the beginner stage. Eventually get into TD Ameritrade or trading, get humbled a few times. Yeah, so I guess the the conversation I have myself, which is gonna be different for everyone else, is basically um like, if you really want this badly enough, this lifestyle, because at the end of the day, before I get into this, I've had jobs, right? I told you guys I worked at a grocery store. I worked at some other places too, and I don't know if it's because I was too overly involved in this topic of trading, and basically my hobby was watching charts all the time, looking at news updates, watching videos. I If I wasn't sleeping, I would either be playing video games or something trading related and investing related, and learning as much as I can about how everything works, including, how capital gains really work with, when it comes to, like, for example, taxes, and how how things work with, like, understanding not just your exchange, but knowing where you I'm just getting, I'm kind of like getting, my brain is getting tied up, but basically I was overly invested in my teens, and still, as I near my mid 20s, this is all I think about. So then there I am working at some places with all kinds of people, and they're all talking about other things, rather it's like, you know their children, or rather it's like stuff that, it's just basically they talk about a whole lot of things, and a lot of you can relate to this if you work somewhere. But it's very very difficult if you are someone that is wired to just always think about trading in charts. And I'm not like sad, or I don't have any regret of being overly invested with that stage of learning the basics, because it made me who I am now, and I really like who I am, and I feel like I'm making progress towards the life that I actually feel very comfortable with. And I lost a lot of friends. Everyone in that age group was basically going on trips, partying, having all this crazy time, and I wasn't, and I don't regret that I missed any of that, because basically this is the way to explain it. So after working with so many different people in an actual, like, traditional work environment, and I have worked full time before, for a while, um, basically you realize that if you're in that mindset, you just can't relate to anyone. You can't relate to anyone. No one knows what the heck you're talking about. No one has that experience, or that, like, dedication, or like, passion for the same thing you're into, if you're in this topic, because just no one can relate, and no one wants to get into it, rather because they don't have enough to really even try trading with a little bit, or they just don't have time, or it's overwhelming, or whatever. Or even if you get someone interested in trading, and they tried, they probably don't even get past making an account, or they just forget about it. It's just a lot of people just are not interested in it. And the people that are actually trading are trading, like, in ways that you can't even understand. Like, the few people in actual, like, workplaces, jobs, um that maybe are involved in crypto and stocks, are just, you hear them talk about it, and you're like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, these people are doing things in a very, very bad manner. Like if you're someone that's like actually educating yourself on trading and you understand even the basics, and then you hear these people over there are like talking about, their trades and stuff, and they're saying things that are not even in line with the basics, and they're getting the basics wrong, and they're like doing all, you just hear it and it just makes absolutely no sense. You're, even if you're a beginner and you hear them talking about it, you know that they're just 100% like off the tracks. They're not even going the right direction. You don't even waste your time talking with them. You kind of avoid them. So you can never. It's you just don't find anyone in these environments that you can relate to. So it kind of makes working a job very, very difficult because you just can't get along with anyone. You can't get along with anyone. You start hating everyone, even though hate's a strong word, but you know what I mean. And eventually, after experiencing a lot and continuing to learn how to trade, trading part time, slowly trying to improve, even though I kept making the same mistakes, and it took me a very, very long time. The amount of time it took me to just get over all the like bad habits I had in trading is very long. And normally, a lot of people are very much in the advanced stages of trading at that point, but I didn't. And you know what? It's cool because like time passes, and I ended up having that conversation with myself, and and I ended up you know becoming successful enough in trading. And a lot of the realistic aspects of trading I'm going to get into another video because it's just it's its own topic. But I ended up having that serious conversation with myself, and I said to myself, like, if you really want this badly enough, you have to like get these bad habits out of the way. Stop being so emotional in the market. Stop being not just emotional, but like do something different. Like stop sitting there repeating the same stuff, watching my portfolio go in the green and in the red, constantly basically seeing flat all the time. Um, and basically I had like no tax bill because again it's just staying flat the whole year. P&L for the whole year it would just be flat at the end of the year, and I'm like something really has to change. So after getting out of high school, after continuing these bad habits for a while, I ended up finally breaking out of that out of it, and I ended up changing the way I do things, changing the way I view the markets over time. And for a while now, I've had like zero emotions towards trading, and a lot of the times, when I first started trading, I kind of followed YouTubers a lot. I would trade. At the time, I was trading a lot of like Nasdaq leveraged ETFs, like TQQQ and SQQQ and so on, and oil, crude oil, and it was just following other people, and I realized this is something wrong as well. I need to experience enough markets to really see where I should be focusing my focusing on. And after experiencing a lot of broad market ETFs, after experiencing some foreign markets, after which in the U.S., if you guys are out of the U.S., you might not know this, but like if you trade in the U.S., it's all there's no fees. But when you start trading foreign markets, foreign equities, you do pay a fee. Usually, if they're not traded in like for example, the New York Stock Exchange. But experiencing that, experiencing some metals, different commodities, and experiencing forex, I finally stumbled across crypto, and crypto just makes a lot more sense to me. I feel much more comfortable trading it, so that's why I created this channel, and I'm very, very much heavily focused in crypto and Bitcoin specifically. It just makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm very happy with it. But really, just to summarize, or just to wrap up this just some key points to wrap up this first part of a two-part video, to again introduce the talk videos that I want to make for you guys. Is the whole purpose, before I get into actual, again, the summarizing the trading for as a beginner, like these videos are just to have like an actual talk with you guys, rather you're new or not new to trading. Most likely you are new, or and you really want to maybe relate to someone more, or someone that can actually talk about the realistic side of trading, and maybe continue the motivation that maybe has been fading away, and maybe um just a little bit of content that maybe you might not find in other channels in the same way, in the way I talk. But basically, starting to trade as a beginner, to a beginner, I guess I consider myself a beginner again. um it's like experience markets. Like, don't get overly confident. Don't think you're like all of that when you first start trading, because you will be humbled. And once the market does humble you enough, you really need to have that conversation with yourself. If this is really what you want to get into, if this is something that you can see yourself doing for a long time, and just being happy with it, being not just happy, but not even being fulfilled, but like having this sense of like calm, being able to wake up every day, look at your charts, rather it's part time or full time, it doesn't matter, but just looking at your charts, making sense of stuff, and feel good, um, piecing together all these charts, and like making sense of, you know, for example, here in the US, like where the US is going. Maybe you understand that, there's gonna be like maybe like a 2 month period of like a fear due to some random economic event, or whatever's going on. Understanding the big picture of charts, and like, hey, we're up here, or like, hey, we're sort of trading this channel that started over here, and now we're like in the discounted area, and you know what, there's these other reasons why it's a good. It's just piecing everything together, and then, showing your opinions by actually placing a trade, and being focused more on like the process of it rather than the actual income of it. Because that's also something I did wrong. In the beginning, I was too focused on like the dollar amount of a trade in my portfolio than being focused on, say, the actual process of analyzing a chart. And like, as long as you are analyzing your chart, you- you're purely focused on like where you're getting in and where you're getting out because of this reason, and you're getting in because of this reason, and all that together. That's why you're buying, that's why you're selling, and you're focused on these channels, and you're focused on these gaps of price action, and you're just focused on that. The money will come. The money will come naturally. There's more to it. I'm gonna get into that in the future. But basically, it's worrying much less about the actual dollar amount of your stuff, and being more focused on reasons on why you're entering, reasons on why you're exiting, and really just focus on the process more than the reward. And that's something that took me a long time to understand, because that removes emotion. That because money is a very emotional thing, and being able to remove emotion from your trading just makes the charts so much more clear. You notice more on your charts when you're not, you know, influenced by emotions. And then yeah, it's just focused on finding the right market that fits your style, and focus on keeping your watch list small, cuz if especially if you're a beginner, if you're overwhelmed due to a large watch list of like different whatever you're trading, whatever market you're trading, a large watch list may mess you up. And naturally, some markets you will have a larger watch list than others, but it's just keeping things simple. If you can keep things simple, learn a lot by yourself when it comes to how you handle your emotions, and then just letting everything just come naturally, right? I feel like that's really what took me a long time to learn. And and yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that for this first part. I want to make a second part soon for this, and then in the future, other talk videos, I want to talk about the things that no one really wants to talk about when it comes to trading. Um, the realness of it that happens in the background to live a proper life, that's going to come soon. Because again, I don't think there's really no one's really talking about this, and the people that are like I really haven't found any, and there's a lot of people taking trading very seriously, and there's a lot of people getting into it. So you want to make sure that we're all supporting each other by keeping things realistic and not being overly hyped and not influencing people to do something that may not be good for them. Um, so yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to express these points a lot more in the future, and yeah, that's it. I'll catch you guys soon.